Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, packing, and of course, all about making your journey to Santiago the best, the most important, the most amazing journey of your life, just like it was for me and just like it was for our podcast guest this episode. We've got a pilgrim from Belgium, our first ever Belgian pilgrim, Mickael Verbeke. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Mickael, I normally tell the listeners about all the Caminos that have been walked, but you've walked so many Caminos, I think I might need a sit down and a drink and something to eat. I'm getting so tired from talking about all your Caminos. So this episode, I'm going to leave that job to you. Tell us about the amazing, all the Camino routes that you've walked.
I walked several times the Camino Frances. Then I did the Via de la Plata from Salamanca. That was in the Holy Year of 2010. Did a part of the Camino del Norte and then deviated to Primitivo. Did also the Camino Portuguese, the Camino Ingles, and then the Via Francigena to Rome, and the St. Olavsleden to Trondheim, Norway.
And where's next?
I'm thinking of Via Francesco to Rome again, but by Assisi.
Okay, so is this a personal quest of yours to walk as many pilgrimage routes as possible?
I would say yes. It's an addiction, I would say.
A healthy addiction by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And so my normal question is tell us how you first came to make the decision to walk the Camino. But, where did this obsession begin? This addiction?
It began actually in 2005, I think, when I read an article about a Belgian organization called Oikoten. And that organization takes young delinquents or people in problematic situations on the Camino. And if they finish the Camino with a guide who is a non-professional, so for example, a baker, but he's still an adult who accompanies the youngster to Santiago, and if they finish it, they get a second chance from the youth court. So they can go independent living or go back home and live back home, a second chance.
Wow.
And I found that very inspiring and was thinking, what do I need to do to get in that program? But I decided to do it on my own. So it grew a little bit for 2 years. And when I just finished high school, I just went to it. I just said, okay, now at the time it's a perfect transition point between high school and university. So I went, and was one of the best decisions I took in my life.
Yeah, that's a really nice story, and your motivation for doing it. And it's very similar to, I would say, medieval pilgrims who, like some pilgrims did it as penance for whatever their perceived crimes were, instead of going to jail. So, I must ask you if you remember maybe any specific success stories that came from these youths that ended up walking to Santiago. Can you remember any really happy ending of one of them that walked and kind of turned their life around?
There are several success stories of that. I cannot say immediately this story or that story, but I did some research on it during university. And it would be about 50% who would not be in the legal system again, and 50% who would come again in contact with justice. But still, it made a big impact for those children or those youngsters.
If 50% of those youths' lives have been turned around, then that can be considered a success, I think. I don't know what the actual rate of reoffending would be or readmission to the system, but it's nice to hear that they've actually changed the lives of 50% of them. So that's a really nice story, Mickael. Thanks for sharing that. And so, I mean, I have to ask you as well, I mean, about all of the Caminos you've walked. What was the first one you walked?
I did the Camino Frances, but I didn't start in Saint-Jean. I was a little bit too excited. And I started in Bayonne already because the bus stopped over there.
So you just got off the bus and said, "Thank you very much, driver. I'm going walkies now."
Yeah, first took a night in a hotel and then started walking. Also because there was a very beautiful path, Pas de Roland in France. It is a very good decision, but it's not the best decision I took.
Okay, what was the best decision you took then? Walking the Camino or?
The best decision was doing the Camino, but it had some problems because it's a very long stretch on a big highway wannabe, the big
Okay,
roads.
yeah.
And that was a little bit difficult. Also, the asphalt on my feet had a couple of beautiful blisters
Yeah.
just before Saint-Jean, but they healed up quite nicely.
Okay, so I normally ask this question sometimes a bit further into the podcast. So while we're on the subject, tell us how you healed your blisters.
I drain it.
With a needle, right? With a sterilized needle, yeah.
Then I disinfect it and then put some wound dressing on it, and then leukoplast. It's like the strong tape, plaster tape that you can put over it, but just cover it all. So it's almost like a second skin.
Yeah, leukoplast. We've heard of that before in the podcast, actually. So sterilize your needle, drain it, and then clean it, and then cover it with the leukoplast. Good stuff. And were you okay after that?
Perfect.
Right. Okay. So imagine that you were going to walk the Camino tomorrow. You're going to return, and what would be the first three things, most important things for you personally, aside from your backpack, your footwear, and your socks?
The first thing I would take is my buff. And it's not because of the COVID crisis right now, but it's just such a versatile element. You can use it as a sweatband, you can use it as a blindfold to take a nap, as a handkerchief or as a rag or whatever, as a hat. It's so versatile. I just love it. And a second thing I would take is a strong bag, just a simple bag that you can fold up to take your trash with you. For example, cans or tissues, because the Camino is such a beautiful road and I want to leave it in as pristine state that I found it in, or even more pristine, better for other visitors to come. It's such a beautiful road, and it's a shame that people throw their trash on it. And as a third element that I would bring is a good walking stick. It just gives me, on hard days, a little bit of extra support, gives me an extra push when I'm having a good day. It's very easy to have with me.
So the buff, for all the reasons you mentioned, it could be used for multiple uses, from being a headband to being a blindfold to being even a face cover, which is absolutely mandatory on Spanish territory and a lot of other places at the moment. And the plastic bag, and like what you said about leaving only footprints, because there's times when in recent times my wife and I have walked along the Camino and I get a bit high and mighty and sanctimonious, and you see the litter on the floor, and you kind of, tut, tut, tut. But that's a nice idea, actually. So if you do have any trash, you can just carry that with you, because rubbish bins aren't always around where you take a break on a bench or on a patch of grass or down by a river somewhere. So that's a really good idea. And the walking sticks to support your joints and and give you that little bit of extra momentum and motivation when you are maybe feeling a bit tired. And it certainly gives me a bit of rhythm as well. I know that when I've used, sometimes I just pick a stick up off the ground and hammer it into the ground, and I feel like a Neanderthal hunter. But that's all a dream in my head that I'm making up. So great recommendations there. Now, on that first Camino, imagine you're walking, let's say you've started in Pamplona or whatever, and you're now walking up Alto del Perdón on the Camino Frances, and maybe think, I've just made it. Was there a mistake you made at the start, and one you'd recommend others don't make when they're first starting out?
Don't take too much with you in your backpack. I'm a notorious overpacker, but really don't do that. It's a burden for you, so don't take too much stuff with you. Most of the things that you really need, you can just buy in the shops there. So don't overpack. Don't put too much weight in it.
Okay, so let's ask this question then. What would you leave behind? What did you take that you didn't need?
A tent. Don't take your tent with you. Also, my first aid kit was way too big. You just need some plasters, some and disinfectant, etc. But you don't need a huge bag. So just cut down on that.
So necessities of the first aid kit, that you can probably buy those as and when you need them along the way. Just look out for those big green flashing crosses at the farmacias. And I mean, it's a classic thing. And tents, you've got to. I think it's illegal to camp wild in Spain, and I actually had a tent with me. And by the time I'd walked from, I can't remember where it was, the bus station in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, the train station to town, I was like, my bag's already too heavy, and I ended up sending it home. So tents are definitely not necessary. And from all of the albergues that you stayed in along the Norte, along the Via de la Plata, along the Camino Portuguese, the Inglés, the Primitivo, I'm going to make life difficult for you now, Mickael, and ask you to choose one. And we know this is going to be good because you've maybe stayed at more albergues than all the pilgrims in the whole world.
I would say the one in Italy, Radicofani, that is hosted by volunteers of the St. James Organization of Italy.
Right.
It's a very good welcome. The moment you arrive, the first question is what they ask. You want something to drink? Some watermelon? That's what you want to hear when you arrive somewhere. How are you doing? And then after all those introductions, they start with the formalities. So that's very important. Also, they had a small prayer moment and washing of the feet, a communal meal. All those things are so important during a Camino, which I really, really enjoy.
And there's some sacred words. Do you want some watermelon? That's what every pilgrim wants to hear after a long day on the road. If you don't mind, just so, because the listeners may have missed it, just repeat the name of the place, please.
In Radicofani.
Okay.
The Ostello of the St. James Organization there.
Okay. And in what town is that on the...
Via Francigena, and it is in Radicofani.
It's actually that's the name of the town. Okay, thank you very much for clearing that up, and I apologise if I'm making you repeat that unnecessarily. What about on Spanish territory?
Then I would say the Albergue Verde in Hospital de Orbigo.
That's been mentioned before. That's been mentioned before, yeah. Albergue Verde. Okay, fantastic. Hospital del Orbigo. Now I'm going to make this bit more difficult for you. And from all of your Caminos, I'm going to ask you to recommend a favourite city, town, or village along the way, and say why pilgrims must go there. It could even be like a hidden gem. It could be a must-see. What's the place that knocked your socks off, that stood out for you?
I fell in love with Pamplona.
Tell us more.
It's a beautiful city with a lot of culture, history, the Basque culture there also, and mentality. It's a city that's really full of life and excitement. It's a beautiful city. Also, a good friend of mine of my first Camino moved there from Germany to live with his wife there.
So Pamplona is your recommend. I mean, the food and the gastronomy in Pamplona is incredible, with the pinchos and the small
Indeed.
beers and
Everything.
Yeah, okay. And what about potentially a restaurant? Is there one restaurant or eatery, cafe, bar that you thought? Sometimes it's not always about the food. Sometimes the food can be unspectacular, but the service and the spirit and the character of the owners can be the reason that you remember a place. So, any specific restaurant, cafes, or bars that you can recommend?
I would recommend where the grandmother is in the kitchen, then you have hit the jackpot.
Absolutely.
The small family, local restaurants where you enter and you feel like your family. That's really great. But to pinpoint it on one restaurant, one that came up to my mind was the restaurant Monjardin in Estella.
Good recommendation. Yep. Okay. Restaurant Monjardin in Estella, which is, I think, day 4 or 5 on the Frances, something along those lines. I can't remember off the top of my head, but pretty early on the Frances. Tell us about that place.
I just really enjoyed the service. The food was great. And at that moment, I was celebrating my birthday last year. So that really sprung up in my mind that I have some very fond memories of that place. Also had dinner with those friends that I just told you about. So that was a great moment. And I really enjoyed it there.
Okay, so for anyone passing through Estella, make sure you go to Restaurante Monjardin, and you'll have a memorable dining experience, shall we say. Okay, Mickael, can I ask you about I think I'm going to do some quick fire questions. So what we do is to each question, we just give short, sharp answers, and then we go back to the main discussion after this. So we're going to start with perhaps your favourite Camino blog or book?
Codex Calixtine, the medieval historic Codex Calixtine, Pilgrim's Guide.
And who's that by?
That was by Pelagio.
Good stuff.
It's a medieval writer, and it's the original guidebook from 1134.
Wow.
Of the Camino.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard of that, and it'd be difficult for people to find. So only if you have time, if you'd send me a link to that or the specific name of it, I can post that on our Facebook page, which is Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast. Okay, a favourite forum and or Facebook group?
The forum of Johnny, what was his name?
Johnny Walker?
Johnny Walker, yeah.
Okay, Johnny Walker. Yeah, he's got some really good Camino stuff up there, so look that up. Guys, favourite vlog and or film?
I would say Pèlerinage en français. It's a French movie which is hilarious and a great movie for the Camino.
I really like talking to international pilgrims because we get material and suggestions that we don't normally get from the Commonwealth countries who are native English speakers. But I must say, your English is absolutely incredible, Mickael. I think your Your English is better than mine, to be honest with you, because mine's colloquial and littered with slang, but yours is absolutely perfect. So I'm very, very impressed.
Thank you.
Let's have a look. One thing, perhaps, you wished you'd packed.
A mule. A donkey. To carry my backpack.
I thought I heard you wrong then. I thought I heard you wrong, but you actually. So maybe that's the next variation for your next Camino.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I like that. That could be your guilty pleasure as well. You carried a donkey with you. I don't know if you know that a guy wrote a book about a donkey on the Camino, which is called Spanish Steps. Have you heard of that?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, someone has done that already. I'm afraid to tell you that someone has beaten you to that and wrote a book about it.
I've seen several doing it with the donkey already,
Right.
but
Well, maybe that's your next one. It's an idea. Let's leave that out there. One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again.
tent, like I told before.
Good stuff. Okay, so definitely wouldn't take that with you again. What for you was the hardest part of the Caminos?
One of the trifecta of the Camino, falling down, losing your way, or getting frightened or attacked by a dog.
Did any of those happen to you?
All three of them. Been there, done that.
Okay, well, we're going to have to come back to this and ask you more about that. A quote or some meditations or mantras for the road. If you don't have any, we can just pass, but sometimes I like to get these things these words that motivate pilgrims.
Veni Spiritus Sancti. Come, Holy Spirit.
Come, Holy Spirit. And that's the Esperantist language or Latin?
That's Latin.
Right, okay. Apologies for my ignorance there. And a Camino app or internet resource?
I would say View Ranger for the maps.
View Ranger for the maps. And maybe I've had the answer to this question already, and I hope you understand what I mean by this. Are you familiar with the term guilty pleasure?
Yeah.
Okay, so a guilty pleasure you carried with you, perhaps.
I have a little bag of emergency rationing with a Belgian waffle, some chocolate, some gingerbread from Belgium, a Snicker bar, some energy bar. And that's my little guilty pleasure, a small taste of home.
So the home comforts you like to take with you.
Yeah.
And just in case any of the listeners go to Belgium sometime soon, what should they try?
I would definitely recommend the Speculoos cookies.
Speculoos cookies.
Yeah, some kind of a ginger cookie.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm already thinking about putting the kettle on and having a cup of tea and dunking one of those in my cup of tea.
Excellent choice.
So let's ask you then about all of the. We love a story in this podcast. So can you tell us more about all of those three things that happened to you? Which is, one was the dog, two was getting lost, and the third?
Falling down.
Right, tell us about tell us a story of one of those.
Well, the first time I got attacked by a dog was at my very first day on the Camino. I just arrived at a small village in France before Saint-Jean, and I was beat, really tired, exhausted. And I just wanted to ring the bell at the house to ask the way to the hostel there. And I woke a sleeping dog. Didn't know I had so much energy to run at that moment.
So you managed to get away from the dog.
Yeah, and since then every time a dog starts barking and goes up to the fence, I really jump up a meter high in the air. A good friend of mine laughs his ass off with that. But I had the last laugh when he got attacked by a chihuahua in the pilgrim's office in Santiago.
A chihuahua.
Yeah, who bit him in his toe.
Wow. Well, hopefully he's got 9 more that he can still walk with. But okay, maybe he shouldn't laugh at you. That's the moral of the story. What about your getting lost?
Um, Everybody loses his way. There was a point where the arrows were, I think, tampered by some kids. I don't know. Just was a very long, straight line, straight road. Just said, okay, I'll follow this road. And after 2 hours of thinking, hey, didn't notice any arrows yet. Then I saw a little, how do you say, some trees. So, okay, there I'll find the arrow. Nope, but it was a swamp with a beautiful drinking bowl hanging from a tree. But I could see the road continuing behind it. So 50 meters through the swamp, continue on that road, and then a T-junction, no arrows, no smartphone at that moment, so where am I? Eventually, I was only 3 kilometers from the Camino, so a nice farmer showed me the road. But arriving then at the hostel, I was just mentally and physically exhausted.
And where was this?
That was somewhere on the Meseta, but exactly where I cannot pinpoint it anymore. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Obviously, you were lost, so you didn't know where you were, but you obviously had an idea of where you were. And could I ask you to give your advice now, just in case any of the pilgrims on their future Caminos get lost? What should they do? What would you advise?
I would say have a good app with a GPS on it. View Ranger is very good, and there you can see where you are and with which direction you're going to. It's very easy to use, and you won't lose your way so much then.
And the last one was falling down.
Yeah. Everybody falls down, and at a certain moment it was going quite steep downhill that was on the way to Rome, and I fell down, scraped my knee, but eventually it ruins your mood during the day. You're having a scraped knee, it's annoying, it's hurting, and you're not happy when you arrive in the hostello. So it's not fun, and it's really putting a mental burden then on your walk that day.
So let's ask about, we can then bring this question back to your choice of items in the first aid kit. So what did you buy along the way, or what would you have had with you in your first aid kit to heal?
Um, Definitely some water to rinse it out, uh, disinfectant, and some good plasters, and if necessary, a painkiller. But I try to avoid those, but it would help.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing those stories. Because, like I said, we really enjoy to hear the stories of the challenges and the highs and lows. Now, I'm going to ask you now about what would you say was your greatest memory from all of your Caminos?
One of my greatest memories was in Sweden, actually, on the border of Sweden and Norway. And it was a very hot day, and I was just walking, and I saw a barn. Said, okay, I'll just ask the owner if I can sit in the shade of the barn. And she told me, no, you'll sit here on my porch. Here's a cup of coffee. Here's a slice of cake. I was like, what is happening here? Very kind people. And she told me, okay, the border is over there, so don't worry, and you can eat there. So I said, okay, perfect. Continued walking then, arrived in the restaurant, and I had dry packed meals and a cooking stove because during in that Camino, you don't have shops or restaurants for certain days. So I said, okay, can I maybe make some food because I didn't use it a lot. So I wanted to get rid of the weight a little bit. And he said, no, here's a meal on the house. Here's a dessert, everything. I was so astonished by the hospitality by those people. I was really moved to tears at that moment. So that's one of the greatest memories.
Do you think these completely unconditional random acts of kindness that complete strangers bestow upon pilgrims, do you think that's one of the reasons you're addicted to pilgrimages and doing these hikes?
Definitely. Is the connection with the people, with everybody has their role on the Camino, and they're doing such a great job. Everybody from the local people to the bartenders to the hospitaleros, everybody, the fellow pilgrims. They're doing so much great people, and that's what it makes it so strong and rich.
And how, from these kind of experiences, when you are doing your walks, on your walks, how do you use those experiences in your life when you're not on one of these long distance treks?
For me, it gives me fuel for the whole year to work. I work with a lot of people in poverty, so I hear a lot of difficult situations, tragic situations, and sometimes you lose a little bit faith and humanity. And it fuels me for the whole year, actually. And it's gives me hope. It really gives me strength to continue going.
That's really nice to hear. Really, really nice to hear. So it restores your faith in humanity and fills up your cup of hope that actually people are good.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the light is shining even when we're in the darkness. You just got to look for it. And those kind of stories are so typical of what pilgrims experience on the Camino, and that could happen in any place, at any time, on any day, on these kind of walks. And I think that's what makes it so magical and brings you back to a place of appreciating just such small and great things. As David Sheehan said which is a previous podcast guest, which I remember those really nice words. Thanks for sharing that story, Mickael. Now, I do have to ask you, because we are really lucky to be talking to you, to have your time, someone who has walked all of these different Caminos.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask you some quite specific questions. For someone who's just beginning, maybe they're an inexperienced walker, but they want to do something like this, which Camino would you recommend?
For a really inexperienced walker, I would recommend the Camino Frances.
Why?
Although at this moment with COVID, it's a little bit too busy. So I wouldn't recommend it this year. But then I would say more of the Via de la Plata. It's longer stretches, but not so hilly. It's quite flat.
Okay, let's
hot.
we'd love to ask you about the Via de la Plata. Tell us where it starts, the kind of terrain, because I know it starts kind of further south. But yeah, if you'd like to explain about the Via de la Plata, because we hear a lot about the Camino Frances, we hear a lot about the Portuguese, we have a few guests that have worked the Camino del Norte, but we don't know much about the Via de la Plata.
It's been a while. It's been since 2010 that I did it, so I hope a lot of things changed. But I started in Salamanca. So everything between Seville and Salamanca, I cannot testify about that. But from Salamanca, you have some long stretches without shade. So that's quite difficult. It's like the long meseta, which is beautiful, but start early in the morning, especially when you're doing it in July or August. Start early, 5 o'clock in the morning. You should be walking.
And so the Via de la Plata, by the sounds of it, wouldn't be for someone that's just starting out, because it sounds like there's not a lot of shade and there's kind of the provisions for pilgrims. There's long stretches in between each of those.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. So if you like the solitude and if you like walking flatlands, it's very good. It's beautiful, but it's difficult, especially if it's those long stretches.
And what about your experiences on the Camino Portuguese?
I did that from from Porto. So the inland route with a good friend of mine from university. And I really enjoyed it. It's actually quite easy also. Didn't have a lot of difficulties with that. The only thing that annoyed me a little bit are the roads where you're like boxed in with the walls next to you, and after the walls there's the fields.
Yeah, and on some stretches there's a bit of road walking as well, which can be a little and cobbled streets. That was the bane of our life on the Camino Portuguese, was the cobbled streets. But I would do anything to be back on them now, to be honest with you. So, did you like the Camino Portuguese?
I really liked it. It was very beautiful. Also, very nice people there. I really enjoyed it. It's beautiful. Yeah.
What about the Norte? How does that compare to the others for you?
The Norte was actually the least favorite of mine, but because I did a big mistake there of following the yellow arrows, which takes a lot of road walking. And if you follow the GR routes, the Grand routes, it takes longer. But it really takes you on the smaller paths along the coastline, apparently. But of course, you hear that tip when you arrived home.
Yeah. So learn from Mickael's experience. If you are going to do the Camino del Norte, look out for the GR routes as alternative routes to the yellow arrows, which I've heard there are long stretches alongside main roads on the Camino del Norte, which I've heard is one of its negative sides. But maybe next time, hey? And what about the Camino Inglés? That's only 6 days, isn't it?
I did that actually in 2 days, but I started in A Coruña. So it's not the full Compostelana. I was a little bit pressed on time because I just finished the Camino Frances and was like, okay, I want to walk a little bit out and clear my mind, be on my own, which was very beautiful. But it was a little bit busy also. Especially going out of A Coruña, I didn't like that much. But all the rest was very beautiful. So I really enjoyed it.
And obviously, all of these routes take you into Santiago. Describe the feeling the first time you walked into Santiago.
Sadness, euphoria, disappointment, and exhaustion.
Why sadness and disappointment?
Sadness because it's over. You know, the trip has ended. You'll part ways with your companions. And disappointment because through all the hardship, all the walking, Santiago is your endpoint, and it gets some mythical proportions in your mind. It's almost like a city made of gold where angels inhabit it, and milk and honey is flowing through the taps. But of course, it's a normal city. It's a living normal city with a special significance, of course, with the cathedral, etc. But it's still a little bit of a disappointment to see, oh, in this magical city, there's also a supermarket.
Yeah, you think maybe the food is grown on the trees and you pick it off, and the milk and the honey's flowing, and maybe watermelon is being given out everywhere as well.
Indeed.
Which was your dream scenario in Italy. Okay, just to finish, you've walked so many Caminos. You've still got more on your must-do list. As you said yourself, Mickael, your healthy addiction. There will be people listening to you who are very envious. Maybe they've not even walked one. Maybe they've got some reasons that they can't, or maybe are anxious to do it. What would you say to convince them to go?
Don't doubt. Just go for it. St. James will always help you in the ways that you need, but not always the ways you want or you plan. But you're also stepping in the footsteps of millions of other fellow pilgrims throughout the ages. And you are a member of a brotherhood that is for life. Everywhere where you meet another pilgrim, you'll know, okay, this is one of my brothers or sisters. You have an immediate connection. It's a life-changing experience. Don't doubt it. And St. James will take care of you. So,
lovely words. St. James will take care of you. You'll find your brotherhood for life, and it's going to be the most amazing experience of your life. And I could not agree anymore with what you said there. It's been a healthy obsession for me for a long time now, and hence the podcast, and hence me getting to talk to amazing pilgrims from the brotherhood like yourself, Mickael. So for your next one, whenever you can get to do it again, I'll wish you the Camino motto. Of course, one of the most famous Camino greetings is Buen Camino, but the Camino motto is Ultreya, move forward with courage. And I want to say that I admire you for your healthy addiction to the pilgrimage, for making the time to do all of these pilgrimages every year, to, as you said yourself, to give you the fuel to recharge, to help you do your job, which you said you help lots of people that are needy. So I want to say I admire you for that, and thanks for helping the needy in society when they probably need you more than ever right now. And it's great to hear that the Camino gives you the fuel to do that.
Thank you very much.
Mickael, buen camino, Ultreya.
Et sucea. Thank you very much.